Good morning. Welcome back to Devotion. We're in the book of James this week, and today we are going to focus on James chapter 4, kind of the beginning of it. James is writing this letter, and he's being very direct, and then he gets to this chapter, and it's like he just lays it on real thick. I appreciate when people are like this with me, so that's why James is one of my favorite books in the Bible, is because he is so honest, direct, and just like drops truth bombs that have no other option but to confront the crooked ways in all of us. All right, so let's take it from the top. James chapter 4, verse 1. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask, and you ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly, to spend it on your own passions. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you suppose that it is no purpose that Scripture says, he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us, but he gives more grace? Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. Oh, James, I love you so much. Whatever's going on in the church that he's addressing, I don't know the details of it. I don't know if even historians know the details of the exact problems that were going on. But he begins this chapter by saying what causes all of these fights, these quarrels, these contentions among you. And he says it's what's warring inside of you. He has this list: you desire and you do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. And when you do ask, you ask wrongly because you ask to spend it on your own passions. So there's a lot in all of this that I could talk about, but I just want to keep it real succinct and basic. But a lot of times I can read something like this and I'll just brush over it because, one, it's very familiar to me, and two, it's like, oh yeah, he's talking about somebody else. But if I make this personal and realize what he's saying, it kind of hits home real quick. So basically, where does all this fighting come from among me? Where does it arise from? It arises from the passions that are at war within me. I desire and I don't have, so I murder. So there's something that I want, that I'm craving, that I'm lusting for, and I can't get it. So what do I resort to? Murder, hatred, spreading lies, dissension. Then he says, you covet. Now, covet is not a word that we use in modern English. No one ever says, oh yeah, I'm coveting that thing over there. But we all have a tendency to covet. I mean, I think our culture is dripping with it. To covet simply means that I see something that I want and I can't have it. And so I end up like lusting after that thing or deeply desiring that thing. So I'm on social media, I'm scrolling through, and there's a particular element of people's lives that stands out to me. It could be their wonderful family life. It could be their job that they have. It could be their personality. It could be their fitness level. Whatever that thing is that I'm seeing in a lot of people, and I tend to hone in on that. And what it does is it makes it more and more obvious to me that I don't have that thing, and I really, really want it. That's to covet. Okay, so we all do coveting, even though we don't use the word covet. But what he says here is, you covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and you quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask, and when you do ask, you ask wrongly because you're asking to fulfill your own passions. And what's his conclusion here? He says, you adulterous people. This is why he reminds me of an Old Testament prophet. Who else do you hear talk like this, right? This is like an Old Testament prophet would talk very similar to this. You adulterous people. Why is he calling them adulterous people? because they are making the things of this world, whether that be physical things or attributes of other people or possessions that other people own, they're making those things idols. They are setting themselves up to be the thing that they are pursuing, the thing that they are greatly desiring. We could say lusting after, and maybe even worshiping. So that's why he goes into the next statement of, you cannot be a friend of the world. If you are, then you make yourself an enemy of God. And again, this whole world idea gets so muddled in lots of Christian circles. He's not talking about outward appearances, or you can't listen to this style of music, or you can't wear this fashion of clothing. That's so surfacey. What he's talking about is what he just described, that we cannot be a people that covet. We can't be a people that quarrel, and that our passions are at war with each other, so we end up fighting with one another. That's the way of the world. And if you participate in that on a regular basis, that is your disposition, your demeanor, then you're an enemy of God. That's his conclusion. Because where all of that fighting and quarreling comes from is you are making yourself a friend of the world. And if I am a friend of the world, I am now an enemy of God. So what's the solution? James, again, in his direct communication, gives us the solution. And his solution is, therefore, it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So, this is what we need to do. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched, and mourn, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. Now, a lot of times this verse is like taken out of context. We just like the one line that says, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. But it's in a context. And this context is James is talking to believers who have been making idols. They have been worshiping the ways of the world that are at work within them, which is producing fighting, quarreling, murder, hatred, demeaning, dehumanizing one another. That's what he's addressing. And so he's like, stop it. The way to stop it is you have to humble yourself before the Lord. That's when he says, submit yourself to God. Now, to submit to God is not a theoretical idea. It is something very real and very practical. I always think of it when I'm praying or I'm submitting to God. I always think of it as back in the Middle Ages when there were kings, right? And I would come into a king's court, and if I was the king's servant, I would bow my knee as an outward sign that I am submitting to that king's will, his desire, his command, his authority. And in the same way, that's what it means to submit to God. It needs to take all of the passions that are at war within me, and I am causing them, forcing them to bow their knee to the throne. So the first step is to submit myself to God, to submit all of those passions, to submit my full and total self, not just a part of me, every last part of me, submit it to God, completely bow down before him. Then, as I'm submitting, I'm also resisting the devil. So it's almost like I'm in this posture. I'm submitting and I have my hand out towards the devil. It's like one and the same. At the same time, I'm doing both. And what is to resist something? To resist is to like hold it back, to not give into it. So it's not like I'm yelling at the devil or speaking to the devil. No, my focus is on my submission to God as I am actively not responding, not listening, not giving into the temptations of the devil, which are all of the ways of the world in which he lists at the beginning of the chapter. So we're in the posture of submission to the Father, resisting the devil, and then it says the devil will flee. James goes on to say, to reiterate the point, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Then he gets a little down and dirty. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Now, I mean, that will not preach on a Sunday morning. I'm sorry. That's not going to fit into a lot of prepackaged sermons. I believe he's using such strong language because have you ever been in an environment or a situation where something like tragic happens and the people you're with like kind of just want to go on with life? Like they're not stopping to consider like the severity of what just happened. They're like, oh, let's go get some food and then let's watch a movie. And you're like, this tragedy just happened. Like, you're almost like, can you wake up? Like, this is not the time to go get food and watch a movie. This is a time to mourn, to grieve, to stop doing what we're doing. If you're with those people and they continue to try to just push on with life, you get more and more frustrated. I think that's where James is coming from. He's like, wake up. You need to mourn. You need to stop acting like everything's okay and being happy. Instead, go into gloom. And he concludes it with, humble yourselves before the Lord and he will exalt you. Well, that's the humbling. The gloom, the crying, the weeping, that's his instruction. That's the outworking of what the humbling looks like, is to completely throw off all of the like, yay, everything's fine, and say, no, oh my goodness, I have been in the throes of something that is full on deception. I have been in relationship with the world, which has been making me an enemy of God. When I find myself in those places, it breaks my heart because my heart's greatest desire is to be a friend of God, not to be his enemy. And so if I end up in deception, wandering off into the ways of the world, and then I suddenly wake up, this is where you'll find me. Sackcloth and ashes, shaving my head, being in repentance, being in mourning. And it says, humble myself before the Lord and he will exalt me. This is not the easy stuff. This is the down the line, let's get real and stop making believe everything's okay. And let our hearts be confronted by the Spirit in all the ways in which we may be making friendship with the world, bowing down at the wrong altars, worshiping false gods and other idols. And if that is the place I find myself in, then I need to submit myself to God, resist the devil, see him flee, and then humble myself before the Lord in whatever way that looks. It may look like mourning, it may look like gloom, it may look like sorrow for a while, but as I humble myself, God will exalt me.